Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I like to first of all discuss the latest figures showing that our fall in trade across the EU in general terms means that we are losing ground on trade with Germany in particular, despite the fact that we have increased our imports from them. But what I'd really like to do is to consider what this means objectively for Boris Johnson's Global Britain project. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So we're going to go on a bit of a journey here. There's going to be a few different twists and turns. It's going to start off here. We're selling less to the EU as a result of raising trade barriers, making it more difficult and more expensive to actually export goods. We are also unable to quickly or reliably export goods, costs aside, difficulties aside, and that means that the just-in-time supply chain is basically broken for us, in both directions really. Now, back in 2016, it was pointed out that we couldn't retain free access to the single market without following the rules of that market. A single market is enclosed. You are either inside it or you are outside it. It's been likened to a walled city. You know, you imagine a walled city. If you are inside, you can move around it. You can trade freely inside the city. There's no problems. If you are outside, it's not impossible to trade, but you have to negotiate the guards at the gate. Questions will be asked, checks will be carried out, paperwork will be required. Depending on what you want to do, you may be allowed in after dealing with the procedures and maybe paying a fee, or you may be turned away. The Brexiteers were saying that we could be outside the city, but just wander in and out at will, and the guards wouldn't even question us, wouldn't even raise an eyebrow. We'd just go in, skip the queues, no problem. People did start to point out all the problems with trading with the EU as a third country. You know, all those EU rules that were apparently so awful that actually when you asked a Brexit supporter what they were, they couldn't actually name any of them. Those were nothing compared to the mountain of EU rules that third countries have to follow if they wish to trade. And the Brexiteers didn't deny this. At least they didn't deny how difficult trade is for a third country. But we'd be fine. Or they'll make us a special case because of the importance of our trade with Germany. We buy a lot of German cars, you know. Apparently German car manufacturers were going to beat down Angela Merkel's door to make sure we got free access to the single market without having to obey any of those bothersome rules. Now, anyone who actually understood anything about the nature of a single market, any single market, would know that this is impossible. You know, it's not just politically undesirable, it's actually impossible. The German car manufacturers didn't hassle Merkel. In fact, they stated that although they would be sad to be exporting less to Britain, the single market was more important to them than the British market. Because this is the fact that seemed to elude the Brexiteers. Britain represents a large market, sure, absolutely. From what I can gather, the UK was Germany's third largest export market in 2016, if you consider individual countries, not regions or trading blocks. Major market for them. But the value of those exports to the UK was really tiny compared to the rest of the single market. It's 8 times less. Who on earth would prioritise a ninth of your market against the 8/9? You know, only a Tory MP could be that bad at maths. So we weren't given any special deal. Actually, we were. Actually, that's not fair. We were given a special deal. We were allowed to manage an important customs border between a third country and the EU. The customs border in the Irish Sea is managed on both sides by the UK. We're also managing this border in pretty bad faith, threatening to tear up the treaties that we negotiated and signed. That represents a very special deal. I'm not aware of anywhere in the world where one country manages both sides of a customs border without actually invading the other side. But reality, and Brexit happened without getting that special deal that they wanted, so we left the walled city, hailing our escape as a great triumph. Then we wanted to sell something, so we sauntered up to the gates with our fresh fish, and the guards promptly told us to do one. A few weeks later, and with tons of rotting fish at the city gates, we finally started to get the message, or rather our businesses did, and so too did EU businesses. So reports are showing that the export of British goods to Germany is down 11%. Oddly, the same article did note that it means we'll be dropping out of the top 10 most important trade partners for Germany for the first time in 70 years, which must be some combination of exports and imports, because we've not been in the top 10 for German imports since the Tories last came to power. But it nonetheless highlights how our influence continues to diminish. Peter Kyle, a Labour MP, asked Boris Johnson in Parliament a few days ago when it opened again to state where our influence had actually been enhanced since Brexit, global Britain. Johnson replied, almost everywhere. We couldn't actually name anywhere. I mean, we know that our influence has waned in the United States. In fact, we pretty much have a full-blown diplomatic row going on there. We know that our influence has waned in the EU. Even bigger diplomatic row going on with several countries there. We lost a place on the International Criminal Court for the first time ever. There's no British judge on it now. That's the first time that's ever happened. At the end of the day, a country's influence is determined by its power. Now, there's different types of power. There could be military power, economic power, political power, sometimes called so-called soft power. Our military power, though, high in a strict World League sense, is nonetheless not enough to actually provide much influence around the world. We can't actually do anything unilaterally around the world. If anyone was in any doubt, Afghanistan showed that. The United States left, finished talking about that, but the United States left for whatever reason, lunacy, and the UK had no option but to leave as well. In terms of political power, there are some countries who have a strong hand on the world stage without great military or economic might. Ireland and Israel, for example, very influential in United States politics, and so wield a lot of soft power. This doesn't apply to us. I can't actually think of a single country in the world where we now have a strong, genuinely friendly relationship after the way our government has behaved. We have cordial diplomatic relations with quite a few, sure, but they're purely transactional. They are on a business arrangement. We keep giving them trade deals that give them exactly what they want, and in return they give us a pat on the head. And the latest news is that the British Council, which is a group that exists to represent our diplomatic interests abroad, is having to close offices around the world now. Not just in Europe either, United States as well. It's like we've just given up. There are other ways of wielding soft power. You can adopt a way of life that appeals to others around the world. Unfortunately, we are no longer a progressive nation. We are going back in time in terms of workers' rights, living standards, environmental standards, and so on. We're not a model that will be particularly appealing to populations around the world. So that really only leaves us with economic power. And we're a strong economy. But like I said, we keep giving other countries trade deals on the terms they ask for in our rush to get them quickly. They keep saying, you said it'd take years to arrange a trade deal. It does if you negotiate them. If you just give the other side exactly what they ask for, you can get them in 5 minutes. And our trade with important markets is falling. And yet, the suffering isn't even two-way yet. At the same time as Germany has been importing 11% less from Britain, it has been exporting 2.6% more to us. Now, this won't last. It's only the case now because the trade barriers between Britain and the EU are not yet fully replicated in the other direction. It's way easier for Germany to sell to us than it is for us to sell to Germany, which means we have no leverage at all over the EU. At the end of this month, we're supposed to be starting some checks on goods from the EU. This will create trade problems for some EU businesses of the sort that we saw for British businesses in January and since. We're not ready for those checks. Now, I don't know what scale of mess there's going to be, but the idea that we won't notice anything next month because it'll be managed seems ridiculous, to the point where I can't work out why the government are doing it, other than to possibly consider, well, first of all, it would be possible that they're being pressured by the US and China, because at the moment, the US and China are disadvantaged by this policy of ours, and we're advantaging unfairly and unlawfully the EU. But as I haven't heard any reports of public upset, I'm not sure about this. So is it possible that the government are desperate to have some leverage over the EU? Is that why they're doing it? Are they still sticking to their original notion that we are too important a market for the EU to force us to follow third country rules like some third country that we are? But that right now, the problem with the EU is they get the best of both worlds because they don't really have problems exporting to us. Is the government deliberately applying those checks in a few weeks, despite not being ready, as an attempt to panic the EU into agreeing to some concessions for our trade with them? I don't know. What I do know is that EU businesses have already been switching suppliers from Britain. Northern Ireland has been doing the same. The supply chain has been moving away from importing from Britain. But Britain has no alternatives to trade with its neighbours, despite our best efforts to replicate it with countries in the Pacific. And as if, if our trade goes down, our influence goes down, because economic power is the only power we have left. Even Conservatives can surely understand that. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.